at a certain point in life, you're supposed to start leaving behind the whole masking thing. The masking thing was the coping strategy. It was you trying to pretend to be just like everybody else. And the masking can take many, many different forms.
Hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And I've got a question for you. Have you had some bad trips lately? Well, if you have, well, you're in the right spot because we've got Jeremy Van Wert, a psychedelic therapist, and we've had him on the show before, and boy, oh boy, it was a freaking blast. You've got to check out that episode if you haven't. But I've got to ask Jeremy, how have you been, my friend?
I've been pretty good. I was on the road with my wife for 10 weeks in an RV. And, you know, a couple of years ago, where I live up in the mountains of California, we had a forest fire and everything was destroyed around us. And so now we're living in this kind of burned hellscape, you know? And so during the summertime, it just gets really, really hot. And we just decided, let's just take our work on the road. So we went up to Olympic National Park and Canadian border area and just came down the coast, and I'd work in the morning and afternoon and then enjoy the beach in the evening. And it was just a really wonderful restart of everything. So it was great.
Oh man, that sounds amazing. And you said that was 10 weeks?
Yeah, we did 10 weeks. I've designed my life around being able to work anywhere. So
oh man, I've got to say, I'm pretty jealous of that. That sounds like that is one heck of a, well, I mean, if you're working while you're doing that, it's not really a vacation, is it?
No, and it was more meant to be living on the road. And, you know, so you're at these little RV parks and parking lots and stuff like that. And I'm out working, doing my stuff at like a picnic table and whatnot. And I did a live with my podcast from an RV park, and I interviewed Andres from Pachamama Sacred Paths, and we talked about ayahuasca and the state of the world and Andean cosmology and all sorts of stuff. It's really wonderful, and Starlink is amazing because you can just broadcast from anywhere, and it's really quite stable, actually. So,
interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't had any experience with Starlink myself, except for just staring up at stars and trying to link to those. But that's a whole another story, right?
It's a good story.
But so whenever you were out on the road and everything, I mean, that's being a nomad of sorts, right?
Yeah, and it really was meant to be that way. Could we really sell everything and go out there on the road indefinitely? And we kind of proved to ourselves that of course we can. And each time that we would run into a problem, it's just a different way of solving it. And so you recognize how much more you're capable of. And I'll tell you this, when you're at these parks, you're generally surrounded by older people. And a lot of these you'll see the same old man walk past your trailer several times. You get to talking to these people, and some of them have rather sad stories where they're in their 70s and they'd worked all their lives and saved up to get an RV, and then one spouse dies right when they were supposed to go and be enjoying their retirement together, traveling and all of this. And so you have the one spouse going, well, I'm doing it because it's what we always had talked about doing. And so my wife and I were very close to 50 years old. And it just became very, very apparent that, I mean, you have to seize life right now. Can't really wait to do it later because none of us quite know what's written for us. And so really doing it now because, 50, you're 20 years to 70, it's not really that long. And so we're really just going to make it happen and go out there on the road, get a nice big bus and go see our friends.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. And there's a few things in that story that are really just quite profound, really, because you've got the old couple or the old widow, if you will, and that right there is tragic in its own right because people's stories melded into one or whittled down to one, I suppose. But that's two whole experiences of everything going towards such a tragic end, if you will.
Yeah.
But now you have your side, and it's doing it in the moment, and it's kind of trying to explore things and make the best of it, right? But that's kind of hard to do in today's world whenever it's just go, 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 go.
Well, it takes preparation work, and I'm lucky enough to have a profession that can be done this way. And so, the great thing, like I'd said about Starlink, is we're seeing these wonderful videos and travel blogs that are being made. We were watching one last night on YouTube of this couple who had taken their bus and done like the Arctic Circle, and they're up there set up in the middle of nowhere with nobody around, and they've got Starlink, and they're doing their video editing and everything like that, and posting content from the Arctic Circle and going swimming, which I would never do up there in the Arctic Circle. And but I really want to go. It just seems like such a wonderful adventure, and we have this beautiful continent that is so amazing, and so much of it is still quite barren and easy to explore. And so, it's something that we've wanted to do for a really long time, and I think that I spent all of my career in corporate. To a certain point, I went from being a lobby security officer to being a CEO in the span of a little bit over 20 years. And, when you really get to see it from all levels, you just recognize how it takes the best hours of your week. It takes the best hours of your life. It takes the best years of your life. And you're around people that you may or may not vibe with. I had a real hard time vibing with people because I've got ADHD, and we tend to just be a little bit different. We see things differently. We act differently. We take words differently. And I never really fit in very well in that environment. And so, making my own thing, getting myself to the point where, my wife and I, we have a business together and we can travel. Like it takes a lot of planning, but boy, when you can do it and you just go, I can stay out here for as long as I want. It's extremely empowering, and this sense of adventure, and you feel kind of childlike in your where do you want to go next week? How fun would it be to go do this thing? And we passed by a place on the Oregon coast, and they were having a pirate festival.
Whoa.
And I'd never heard of anything like that. Apparently, just a huge deal in this little town whose name I can't remember. And you can just stop and go to a pirate festival, and it's pretty neat.
That's way too cool. Kind of like a Renaissance festival. I know that whenever I've been to one, they did have a pirate day, but a whole pirate festival would be its own barrel of shenanigans, really. But you mentioned two things that I would like to highlight real quick, or rather ask you. One of them, you said dealing with your corporate gig, or your corporate journey, rather, you might not vibe with some of the people that you work with. And in our last episode, you'd actually talked about taking out the trash in your life, about taking out the toxic people, and sometimes you can't really do that if you're kind of stuck in a job, right? So how would you actually go about that, during your corporate gig?
Yeah, this is really tough, and so I can speak about it from the perspective of somebody who has ADHD. We tend to get into positions and really, really work like crazy. And what happens is that others on corporate teams around us, they begin to resent us because we're pretty relentless in the way that we go about work. And we end up kind of making other people look bad because we're going, well, we're doing the job that is assigned, right? We're supposed to do this. So there you are giving 160%. Everybody else is giving 65% going, what's this guy doing? And so then there's this resentment that you're not really seeing until you're like, why are people throwing vibes at me? So your question being, how do you have those boundaries at work? Well, number one, I think it's really critical to recognize the difference between your friends group and your work group, which the ADHD person is really not that great at naturally recognizing. You walk into a place and you go, here are potential friends. and we're going to go out to lunch together, and we're all going to be good friends. And you recognize that in a corporate environment, it's not that way at all. And that's what I was always like. I was like, let's all go out to lunch, let's do this. Everybody's like, so I think it's calibrating what is your real life and who you kind of need to be at work to get through that. And what is the side hustle that you are developing in order to get yourself to the next step? Because that corporation only has it only has its own best interest at heart. And so oftentimes the ADHD person doesn't really see a layoff coming and isn't really thinking strategically like that. So they get caught off guard. They're laid off and they don't know what to do. The panic, the shame, and everything like this. And so for fear of like going all over the map, it is recognize what is and is not real in your workspace as far as relationships with other people. Recognizing that every single person needs to have a side hustle thing that can become your full thing in the event that your corporation makes a detrimental decision about you. And recognize around you that really all you need are a few do or die relationships with people, and those are critical for you. And they're not everyone. They really are only a few people, those people who are really truly in your corner no matter what. And those are the people that you give your energy to, because ADHD people, we give energy to everywhere, and so then we feel scattered, and then we get rejected and we get mad that we've been rejected. We're very sensitive to that sort of thing. And so when we get pushed aside, when we get fired, when we lose a friendship, it's an exceedingly personal thing. And so we always have to be calibrating what is actually our ride or die relationships. And there really should be no more than 5. Okay, that's a realistic number there. Who's functioning with you, who really understands you, who truly loves you, who returns your texts, who texts you first. Those things. And recognize that work is work and your real life is your real life.
Okay. Ooh, there's a lot of juicy stuff in there. But I just gotta say first, is that why I'm always like, everyone's my friend? Why do they not like me? I thought we were going to be friends. Like,
yes.
Damn. Shit.
You know, and then you feel like naive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when maybe somebody's been harboring a resentment at you, you know, maybe they've been talking about you, maybe, you know, it really just kind of comes down to that maybe your boundaries weren't really where they should have been. And it's kind of like a learning experience. But yes, we tend to walk into a place and go, friends, you know, and then we get hurt.
And it's because I have to set expectations on that kind of thing, right? Because I'm accidentally setting expectations that I'm going to have reciprocated feelings of other friend, you know, but whatever. But you also said something right there that you mentioned with your other explanation, that was boundaries, right? So with boundaries, we kind of teach other people how to treat us, whether we know it or not, right? So with ADHD, how is that making people like resent us in a way, right? Because we're kind of sitting there just trying to be friendly with everyone. We want everyone to get along. We're just trying to do our thing and do it the way that we see is most efficient, right?
Yes. One of the key things that an ADHD person has a tendency to do is overshare, because we trust people. Yeah, I'm hitting you, aren't I?
Yeah.
We trust people. We want that warmth of a relationship, and we truly care for people. And it's a very sincere thing. And when that happens, we tend to develop very quick trust with people, and then we start sharing things, because we don't necessarily have the mind of, I'm going to pump this person for information. I'm just going to learn because there's probably some information that I can use for my benefit next. We don't think that way. We just friend and we share. And when we do that, then we end up sharing stuff that maybe we shouldn't have said, and then it's everywhere, and then we got that kind of like weird, like, why did I say that? I knew I shouldn't have said that. You know? And so like that boundary of, number one, limit the amount of time that you spend with your colleagues if it is at all possible. Be strategic about how much time you spend socially with these people. And you know that that little meme with the little dancing chickens where it's like, this is one of those times where you need to shut the fuck up. That whole thing, like that is the song that you need to be singing in your head all the time in those environments.
So just zip it. Just zip. Don't overshare.
Yes.
Got it. I mean, no, you're laying on a lot because either in text message or emails or whatever, it's like, all right, here's the answer. And here's why I think that's the answer. And here's why I feel that I think that way too. And then sometimes I'm like, I feel like they don't need to have all that extra context for some reason, but
we over-explain everything.
Yes.
And we want everybody to be on times too, so that they can just get through it. I got YouTube Premium recently, and on YouTube Premium, you can do times 3. Shit. And so I am just devouring videos because, our processing time is insane, right? So, we gotta watch ourselves for like over-explaining stuff.
I'm so bad at it because whenever I don't do it, I feel like I'm not caring about the conversation. Oh, yeah. I don't. But it's just one of those things I have to recognize that it's a me thing, right? Is that how we deal with ADHD? Is it just all in my head and no one else's? Or like, I know that there was something that we had mentioned last episode that was cut out, that it has changed my life in some regards. And so I can speak on those personal experiences, but at the same time, how do we handle ADHD without supplement of sorts? How do we sit there and how do we actually learn those boundaries? And what do we do whenever we overstep those boundaries or we have people overstep them?
Yeah, it is imperative for us to have control of ourselves as much as possible. And this is something that a lot of people tend to discount, but it is really, really important that we're exercising every single day. Our minds, our bodies absolutely need it. Something that's going to make you burn a little bit. Cycling, rowing, very, very good for this kind of thing, where you're going to so when we have ADHD, we have this consciousness that's kind of everywhere at once. We want that consciousness to be right inside of ourselves, because that's more of what other neurodivergent people are thinking and feeling. Okay.
Really?
One of the reasons why psychedelics is so amazing for us, because it quiets out all of the kind of thought tornado that we're always living in, and it connects us with the divine and the mystical, which we have a very difficult time as ADHD people meditating and going into a state of deep connection to the beyond, right? Because we're always swimming in thoughts and in ideas and in emotions and in relationships and that sort of thing. And so the original question that you said was about how do we deal with this without supplements? How do you raw dog ADHD? And you raw dog it by lots of exercise, really incredible foods that help you with brain function. The lion's mane mushroom stuff that you can get in like the green drinks and so forth. And you're not overeating lots of processed garbage, right? So good food, good exercise, and very short spurts of mindfulness a couple of times a day that's not interrupted by text messaging or scrolling, where you got a 3-minute mindfulness. Anybody can do 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes of like 900 megahertz just in your ears, and you're just breathing and listening to 900 megahertz, okay? Like that kind of thing. Then you kind of come out and you can feel yourself inside yourself. You can feel your body and go like, what are the 2 things I need to do today? Write all the things that you need to do down, select the 2. Get the 2 done and stop trying to do everything.
Fair enough. That is some really sound advice that I wish I'd gotten a long time ago. And that sound, 900 megahertz, you said, correct?
Yes. It's kind of like called the God frequency. It's just very, very beautiful, kind of like crown chakra, resonant sound, and it's beautiful, and it places you in in that kind of more spirit-centered space.
Gotcha. Is that the same thing as I've heard before? I think I've heard it called green noise, where it's something that just shuts up everything. Like it will somehow make the background track stop. It's very strange.
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of times what they do in the background is that they'll have these sounds. And you can get like a lot of these on YouTube where they got the instrumental music over the top, and in the back there'll be this sound going whoa, 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 whoa. Unbelievable for like your focus. And I've played this stuff for my wife, and it is jarring for her. She's autistic. And it's jarring for her. It doesn't work for her. It's very distracting. But for me with ADHD, because my mind's a little bit different than hers, it's amazing for focus.
Okay. Now I'm going to have to try to play that in the background while I edit. I don't know if I can do that. Does it work?
Yes.
Huh.
Type in like ADHD music into YouTube, because there's all sorts of different creators that make, like, I love synthwave, and they may have this like specific kind of synthwave that's specifically for ADHD. Oh my god. I almost feel normal.
Yeah. Man, you just hit something though. Feeling normal, right? That because whenever we're neurodivergent, whenever we're quote unquote weird, all we want to do is feel normal, right? Isn't that what we're all trying to do, is return to a state of homeostasis or a feeling of normal? And whenever we're rejected growing up all this time, that kind of is a low blow to our confidence levels, right? I know it was for me.
Yeah, it is really hard. And, you know, when you live a lifetime as ADHD or ADHD, there's been a lot of letdown. And so there's a lot of different theories about where these specific neurodivergent things come from. And of course, like right now, there's a national discussion about autism and Tylenol and these different sorts of things. And it's never like one thing. None of these things are ever like one thing that creates it, but these things can contribute. I have a strong belief that oftentimes early traumatic events, high stress environments, the dynamic where you have one parent that is narcissistic and another parent that is kind of absent a lot of the time, you have the perfect dynamic for the child that is trying to figure out how to be relevant in the family, how to be noticed. And they're preoccupied with trying to be good, trying to earn the love and the care of the parent. And with that really preoccupation, it's a high level of anxiety that little child grows up with. And it develops itself into, and I'm not discounting the role that vaccinations or Tylenol or the plastics that we eat may or may not play a role in this, okay? Or genetics, okay? Yeah. All of these different things. Plus, I've never talked to somebody with ADHD who doesn't have this kind of dynamic that I'm talking about with the one parent that might be really intense and another parent that's either absent or at work all the time. Often dads are at work a lot and kind of preoccupied with other things. And so the child grows up with this repetitive feeling of having to earn love, goes to school, gets bullied, loses friendships. And so there's this constant fear of loss. And so then first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth, all the way up, being constantly traumatized over and over. You're losing friends. You're having these, really upsetting things happen to you, getting embarrassed in class because you can't read out loud really well, like whatever the thing is. Okay. And so then you have stacked on top of stacked trauma, this protracted long-term trauma. And so then when you get to a certain age, 40, 50 years old-ish, or maybe even 30, right? You're so exhausted of the mental taxation that there has been. You're so sensitive to being rejected that you often start taking efforts to, at all costs, avoid being rejected again because it's just so painful. And it doesn't seem to get easier as you get older, the way that, educators and doctors may have told you. So then you're sitting at a place in life where you go, I really am sensitive. I really react strongly. And I at this point in my life only want this small group of friends because I've tried a larger group of friends and I keep getting disappointed. And then you have those trauma triggers happening where you take rejection so deeply, so personally, and you have a hard time forgiving. You know, there was that moment of the Charlie Kirk funeral where Erica forgave the shooter. Really a remarkable thing for any person to do in that position, right? I looked at that and I'm like, I would like to think that I would have that in me, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know that I do. You know, it's because valid. these things have, you know, not that I can compare my hurt with her hurt or anything like that, but I deal with a very difficult time forgiving people for doing bad things to me, you know, because of trauma that goes back to first grade.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, that's where we go, right? Is as we're going through elementary and stuff, and as we're going, we get hit with all that trauma, all that rejection, and it just builds on top of it. And you had said earlier how this is all like every kid or every person that suffers or deals with ADHD or ADHD, they have the same dichotomy in the background of having these parents and all that. And you're sitting here and you're talking about, before you got to that part, I was like, why is he describing my childhood? You know? And then you said it and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But I was also the only male child. I was the middle child. And so that was its own little thing right there. So I think on top of everything else, I was just born to just like have it kind of rough, you know? Yeah. But at the same time, whenever we're going through all those traumatic things at school and then you come back home and then it's kind of just a repeat, rinse and repeat kind of thing. Like people don't really seem to figure out that life is different outside of that whole structure, right? So how would you describe it to someone that is stuck in that loop? How would you tell someone that it's okay to step out of what you think is normal?
Yeah, this brings in another thing that both you and I have tried and failed to do in our lives, and it's masking. Because we feel weird about being who we are, because who we are gets rejected. Who we are makes bad decisions. Who we are embarrasses themselves. Who we are overshares. And so we tend to mask. We try on this different identity. And sometimes it can get so bad that people with ADHD tend to act different with every single relationship that they have. And they're trying to fit in to what they think the other person wants them to be. And, you know, that's in essence building relationships on not a solid foundation of values. And at a certain point in life, you're supposed to start leaving behind the whole masking thing. The masking thing was the coping strategy. It was you trying to pretend to be just like everybody else. And the masking can take many, many different forms. And for me, in junior high and high school, it was being a class clown. Because I knew that I couldn't focus in class. I knew that I couldn't, there were certain things that were very, very difficult for me to do. And I didn't have the perspective of a 49-year-old man who looks back and goes, our educational system is atrocious. It's a terrible environment for young people who are a little bit different. It's a terrible environment for teaching creativity. It really is only there to teach young people how to follow the rules and work in large corporations. That's really what it's preparing you for, not to be independent-minded, not to be creative or self-driven. It's really teaching you mainly how to follow the rules, which is not something I was ever particularly good at, and probably you either. And so if you, like me, could cover that over by being funny, always having some shenanigan going on, and control the chaos in the classroom because I meant to do that, not because I accidentally did something silly. No, because I totally on purpose just did something silly, right? Then you're sidestepping the actual thing. Now, girls are a little bit different. It's one of the reasons why girls don't get diagnosed as early on in life, and how you get like women who are being diagnosed in their 30s and 40s and going, that's why I'm weird, right? And they do. Girls are better able at holding it in and being quiet, and be that what it is, maybe some socialization, maybe just that we're just built differently as guys and girls, right? For them, they learn how to people please to a fault, and they never really get to be their true selves in a relationship because they are afraid to be that true self. A lot of like people who have high functioning autism have the same, where they're just really trying to pretend to be somebody that they're not. What I do, because I obviously my specialization is this kind of thing, and I work with people and coach them, is working on those bedrock values, really understanding like what you want as a human being, what your mission statement is, just like a company would have a mission statement, what your goals are, because what people with high functioning autism and ADHD have is they do really well in certain kinds of structured environments. Okay. And when there's no structure around them, they tend to have a little bit more difficult time figuring out what it is that they're going to do with themselves. And so I help people create that structure in their lives, and so that we know what it is that we need to be doing, why we're making certain decisions. Did we exercise this week the way that we were supposed to or not? And are we doing the daily activities that are going to help us be ourselves? And are we forming relationships that are the most fruitful for us, that are with real friends and not with people that we're just kind of desperately trying to please, and so that we can have them on the Rolodex of friends that we would like in our lives?
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like you're bringing it all back around to those same 5 friends that you were talking about before. Right? Because with those 5 friends, in a sense, we can actually sit there and we can cultivate those relationships that aren't based on wearing a mask. We can cultivate new boundaries that we feel comfortable testing with other people, maybe. It offers you that space to kind of do those things that you may not feel best to do with other people. But that's kind of the thing, right? Because speaking from experience, I'm like just in my 30s trying to figure out who the hell I am, and it's just because it's like, oh, well, according to my DNA, I have ADHD. So it's like, cool. Well, got that one cleared out of the way, whatever. But it's also like, maybe I'm ADHD. I don't know, because I have more of those characteristics, but it's also like, I can't afford to go get a test. So I'm just going to run with it and say that that's what it is, or I don't know. What's the difference between the two?
Number one, anybody who's listening who is really interested in this, start having a conversation with an AI bot like Grok or ChatGPT, and have it start asking you questions that you can answer, that can give you a little bit more, because getting tested can be an expensive thing, and not everybody has an extra $1,000 laying around. And so this can give you more of an idea of maybe even like what ADHD type that you have, whether you're a little bit more on the autism spectrum or ADHD. There's so many similarities between my wife and I, is that we get like really super hyper focused on things. And I tend to get really tactile. I have this ridiculous measuring tape that I always have in my hands, because I need to fidget. Yep. And the difference between her and I is my ability to socialize is much higher than hers. She gets worn out a lot faster than me with social things, going to parties, being around other people. I tend to like that sort of thing a whole lot more than she does. She wants a very small room of a few people that she can trust around her. Also, for her at least, being on her own for long periods of time is something that's perfectly fine for her. And the thing that I think the person who has high functioning autism needs to watch out for is that when you just hang out with yourself, you get more and more weird. And so you kind of need other people around you, because you're going to be going down rabbit holes and exploring different things and enjoying what you read and everything like that. And it's good to kind of get yourself out in more of the real world a little more than never. And so that you're still in touch with things. And there is a tendency to be a heck of a lot more disorganized. And,
gotcha.
I'm working with a woman right now who she's feeling very, very dysregulated right now with her ADHD, because she doesn't feel that she can actually finish anything that she started. And you said her child asks for help with something, and she goes to do it, and then she gets distracted because there's dirty dishes in the sink. She starts doing that, and then she realizes that she didn't put the laundry in the dryer, so she's got to go do that. And then it's like an hour later, and her child is like, "Are you going to help me or not?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to do that." And so, one of the things that I suggest that people do who would have that really disorganized type of ADHD is when, for instance, your child asks you, "Hey, I need help with this sort of thing." Grab something, put it in your hand, like it's a pen or something like that, and don't put that thing down until you have done that thing. And if that thing requires both of your hands, then you need to put it in your pocket or whatever, because you need to have that thing on you, and you don't put it down until you've actually followed through. It's like a level of accountability that's built into just having something in your hand, because you go, "Why do I have this in my hand?" "Oh, it's because I have to finish this thing." And it's just a real easy way to keep yourself focused where your brain's bouncing all over the place. Then go exercise. Because your brain's obviously spinning.
Oh, okay. So wait, hang on. What happens if they were holding the thing and they walk through the door and they forget?
Woo! Yes, there's another thing, and this is something that I do, and it is foolproof. Okay? So there's something that you need to not forget even before you go to sleep, and you want to remember it in the morning. Choose a space like the top of your desk. Okay? Think of that thing and tap 10 times. Okay? And then go about what it is that you're doing. You will remember that thing. Okay? You will remember it in the morning. Tap 10 times, and you'll remember where it is that you're going and so forth. But your question was, what if I have this thing in my hand that I did and I forget what I'm doing? I kind of doubt that you will, because that thing is going to you put that in your hand for a reason. And you can also couple it with doing the 10 taps. The 10 taps, the reason that works is it's not something that you commonly do. It's not something that you go around like tapping on things. And so your brain is going to go, "Well, this is weird. This is a new thing." And so it associates the tapping with the thing that you need to remember, and you remember it.
Okay, I'm going to have to try that for sure. Because I was like, well, it sounds a little out of the ordinary. And then you're like, "Oh, yeah, the brain's going to be like, that's weird." I'm like, yeah, that is weird.
I'm going to get a text from you tomorrow going, "Dude."
I actually, at first I thought you were going to say, "I schedule a text to send myself later." And I was like, that's pretty smart.
That's good. I've done that before. That's not bad.
But knowing me, I would go, yeah, whatever. And just go about my day, just check the watch. "Oh, yeah, that's for me. Oh, yeah, I'll remember that." It's just la la. But it never really seems to work. Text messaging, communication, emails, that kind of thing. Because either I'll read it and I'll reply in my head and keep on going, or be like, "All right, I'll get back to that." And then it's just like under the rug on accident, It's just like out of sight, out of mind. And it's not like I'm intentionally choosing, like, I will ignore this person. It's going, "All right, I will get back to them after I finish this." And then it just never, that thing just never ever gets finished, I guess. So how do you do that?
Yeah. firstly, and this isn't a particularly complicated concept, those of us with ADHD tend to do a lot of negative self-talk. And it's so extremely toxic. We get frustrated with ourselves because we don't finish things. We need to strategize our lives in a creative way. And it can change from season to season in your life.
Okay.
Whether it is a whiteboard that you write everything down on, your big goals and your small goals and everything like that, or you're using something like Notion or Microsoft To Do or something like this, all of these things need to be put on a checklist that you're consistently using. And so that you are being reminded of the things that you need to do. Okay. That creates that structure around your day and these things. And don't overload yourself with things, and take a look at all the things that you have to do. Which one of these things can be outsourced to you can pay somebody to do them. That's a really high level way of taking care of lots of things. Number two, how can AI help you with a lot of the things that you need to get done? Have you not considered the ways in which you can outsource some of these things so that you're not always the one pulling granite uphill, and we do what's right in front of us right now, and as a means of procrastinating on other things, because we feel like we're doing something because we're answering our text or something like that. It's not necessary. Use your lunch to answer those texts. Very few of them are critical.
Fair enough. That's a good point. I think that a lot of us tend to either overcomplicate our phones or underutilize them, I guess. I'm somewhere more towards the underutilization. Like, I have all these apps that I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be pretty cool to try out one day, and then never mind. And just like, they're just sitting there on my home screen. I'm like, today's not the day for that. It's just one of those things.
Did you know that iPhones now have a function where you can record the phone call, and then afterwards it will make notes about what the phone call was about, and you can ask the person, I'm going to record this so that I can like get all of it, and it tells on both sides that you're being recorded, and then at the end you have the recording, and you can say, make AI notes for me, and so that you can just focus on the conversation itself.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, so that way you don't have to worry about looking at the map like, are we there yet? Kind of thing. Like, I should have took a turn back 3 miles ago, but we're heading towards Albuquerque anyways now. Here we go. ADHD and trying to keep on topic is really hard for a lot of people, right? Like, I'm sure some people may have even had a hard time following us on this rabbit hole train of like, oh, here's another ADHD topic, let's go this way. Here's another one. But we're still talking about ADHD in general, right? But that's kind of the thing, is that we like to kind of put our hands in all the buckets if we can, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. And I sometimes don't recognize that I'm doing it. And my sister's very much the same kind of thought patterns that I have. My wife will say, you know that nobody can follow the conversations the two of you are having together. Like, they're just so bonkers. And I don't recognize that. I just know that my sister and I are kind of on the same wavelength with things, and we just switch and switch and switch. And it can be difficult and not conducive to getting deliverables done. And you kind of have to walk in a little bit structured and learn how to keep yourself disciplined when you need to get certain things out of a meeting.
Okay, so you just said the D word, though, discipline. How does one cultivate discipline for ADHD? Because discipline might have that negative connotation with some people, right? Because they were disciplined as children, because they were acting out, or this, that, or another. So, but that discipline isn't necessarily the same kind of discipline you're talking about, is it?
Let's call it order in the spirit. Because it's the same thing. Because that's that when I'm thinking about, okay, how would I describe what an ADHD person needs to have if I wasn't going to use the word discipline? And I would say order in the spirit, because our spirits are so all over the place, and so running so hot and so fast. And so when you're procrastinating, you're basing your world in fear. When you are avoiding work and socializing, the likelihood is that you're masking. and you're just simply engaging in frivolous social contact. And so to get that order in the spirit, you have to feel that sense of stillness inside of you. And like I have been kind of talking about here, the exercise, the food, and not overtaxing yourself and trying to do 10,000 things at once. If you're feeling crazy, ask yourself when the last time was that you actually did a good cardio workout. If you are feeling like you've got too much going on, recognize that what your tendency is going to be is to kind of vapor lock and go into scrolling mode. And you're going to avoid everything else, and you're going to scroll your favorite content. And man, people make excellent content out there. It's so addicting. And especially for our brains, when we're trying to escape the world, we have to put limits on that because it disorders our spirit.
That's a really good way to put that. Order in the spirit. I'm going to have to use that quite often now, because whenever you said that, that kind of made everything go like, oh yeah, that feels better than discipline. I like that a lot, because I know that I had been asked at one point a few months ago why I don't necessarily speak to myself in I terms. Like, I will, but I don't say like, because I'm a very verbal processor as well. So if I'm like home alone or doing whatever, I will talk to myself, but I don't go like, I'm going to do this. I say, we're going to do this. And someone was like, why? I was like, I think it's because I was always in trouble. I was a bad person. I was always not thinking right. I was always doing something wrong. So I started referring to myself as we to try to be my own best friend, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's something else out there that I haven't been diagnosed for, even though I've had tests and stuff. So,
well, I got a question for you about this, if you don't mind getting personal.
Go for it.
So I've talked a lot about the ways in which that we have been kind of traumatized through the years as people with ADHD. What would you say is your biggest ongoing trauma? Something that hurts still?
Ooh. See, that's kind of hard to say too, right? Because whenever I look back at like my childhood, some of the early stuff is like fear-based, right? So one of them would be like in bed with like trying to go to sleep, and then my father yelling at my mother, and just like a lot of loud conversations, and it's about something that I had done, and so my mom was sticking up for me, and so it was just kind of one of those like, I shouldn't be here kind of things, like I would be better, like my mom would be better if I wasn't here kind of thing. So it maybe started, like, my negative self-talk started way back then, and that may be the thing that I'm still dealing with. I'm not entirely sure, but that would probably be my most deep-seated one I can think of off the top of my head.
I'll bet you that when something bad happens, no matter what it is around you, you blame yourself first.
Yep.
Yes, because when you're explaining, and generally when people talk about, well, I don't know, I guess there was trauma. There were these times when my parents would fight. That is the primary thing. When they bring it up, the first thing, that is a primary major thing in their lives. And so you're hearing this mom and dad fighting out there. There might be a sense, I don't know if they're going to divorce. And if they divorce, it's going to be my fault. I don't know if he's going to leave tonight. I know that my siblings can hear what's going on out there, and they know that I'm the one that created this. And so there's this kind of like ugly feeling of total responsibility for everything bad that's happening. And you know now that no child could be responsible for all of those things, but at the time you will only remember the emotion. And so now what lives in you is this kind of trigger that comes up when something bad happens. You go, oh man, I wish that I could be a better person. I wish that I wouldn't do that. So I'm so stupid, or whatever the thing is that you say to yourself. That is something that requires healing inside of the ADHD person. And one of the wonderful things with plant-based medicines and psychedelic medicines is the ability to really do deep, loving healing. In the last ayahuasca journey that I did for myself, I was just in the middle of this beautiful purple ocean of love. And it was one of those experiences where the love is turned up so loud that you recognize how much you focus on stupid things around you, and you don't focus on how deeply you are connected to a divine, to the universe, to a great grand source beyond you. And when you can connect with that and go, I messed a few things up when I was a kid. I was a rambunctious kid. I was really highly distractible, and I'm loved beyond anything that I've ever been able to describe, and to sit in that love and be loved for what feels like a very long period of time when you're using a medicine in proper and safe environment and ceremony and everything like that. You come out of that really honestly in some circumstances for the first time going, I am lovable. I am okay. I am beautiful. I had a tough go at the beginning of things, and for you, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. You were a rambunctious kid. You got excited. You did things. Maybe sometimes you made naughty little choices and so forth, but you were a little kid, and that's how little kids learn. And so you did what any little boy in your circumstance would do, and your parents were just struggling with how to handle it because they were kids too. Yeah. They were trying to figure out how on earth to do this, and they didn't know what to do with themselves, and so they yelled, and then you blamed yourself.
That nail on the head. And that was one of the things too, is that like whenever I was in rehab, whenever I was in therapy, I don't remember what we were talking about, but I just remember that I like had a break off moment, and I was like, oh, holy shit. And my therapist was like, what? And I was like, I can't really be mad at my parents anymore. And she was like, why is that? And I was like, because I just realized that I'm 29 in a rehab, trying to figure out my life, trying to get my shit together, trying to figure out who I am. And I have no kids. They were the same age and had 3 kids.
Yeah.
And so I was like, of course they were going to fuck me up. They didn't do it on purpose, though. So that was the intention. That was the big thing, though, was that I recognized that they didn't do it intentionally, And I think that some of that was kind of also like I brought it upon myself. So I don't know. Maybe I just needed to hear that again. I don't know. So
when you get to that point where you recognize that very fundamental thing, and you come to a state of understanding and forgiveness for what it was that they were going through, you've hit the next level in your life. And it can be really easy to like hold on to a lot of that resentment. But when you just recognize, like, they were younger than me, and they were financially stressed, and dad had a job that he hated, and mom was trying to get through it. Maybe there was some alcoholism, if it's not uncommon, and they were just struggling the same way I'm struggling in this life, and there's not a whole lot of straight lines.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, is that there's so much that goes on that whenever I was growing up, looking at everything, it was kind of like, why? And now as I'm figuring things out, it makes sense now-ish. But I mean, there's so many things that I don't even remember well enough that I can't ask those kind of questions and stuff. And so it's like, how do you deal with that kind of thing? And I guess that's where psychedelics come into play, right?
Well, yeah, because you never quite know where the journey is going to go. And sometimes you end up finding yourself in this wonderful place of love, and sometimes you end up finding yourself in this place of beautiful suffering. And this, maybe you go through every single time in your life that you have been let down, lost friends, and that you actually get the beautiful opportunity to grieve. Because the ADHD person has a difficult time with feeling the appropriate emotion for the moment, because we're always spinning so fast. When we had a forest fire here that I mentioned a little bit earlier, and everybody was deeply traumatized, and everybody was crying when we came back, and our village was destroyed and people lost their homes, and just the sorrow was so thick. I never cried. And I started thinking, like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't understand. Like, everybody else is crying. I should be crying, shouldn't I? But I recognized that what was happening inside of me is that I was highly distractible, more so than normal. And I wasn't recognizing just how much of a lack of attention to detail that I was having. And it really showed up in my work performance over a long period of time, because I processed the emotion differently. And so we have to be kind of aware of ourselves and how we process emotion in an unconventional way.
Unconventional way. I think that that's what kind of tripped me up, was that I was trying to hold myself to conventions, trying to understand myself through everyone else's lens without trying to understand who I am, you know? So, real quick, Jeremy, we are right at the end of this episode, which sucks because I just am going to assume that we can see you on in the future. Correct?
Absolutely. I love chatting with you.
Good, because this is way too awesome, and I know that if we're hitting this like iceberg tip of ADHD, there's so much more to talk about. So, where can people find you again if they are looking for anything to do with marriage and ADHD or psychedelics, all this stuff?
Go to mindfulmutiny.com. That's where my stuff is right now. You can schedule a consultation to talk with me. We can talk about therapy. We can talk about coaching. We can talk about all sorts of stuff that I might be able to do to help support you and stop the crazy train.
Yeah. Sweet. Jeremy, I've just got to say thank you for leading the Mindful Mutiny, and thank you for being on Retrieving Sanity for the second time. I'm excited for the third time, and I wish that this episode could go longer, but people also have listener fatigue. So,
well, I was mentioning before we began recording how proud I am of you for how hard you are working to bring a really positive message to people. And I recognize how hard you're working and how you're alive so often. And it's such an important thing, and there's such a sense of authenticity that you just have you have a wonderful ability to project out there. You're just you. And so keep doing what you're doing, because it's exceedingly valuable.
Jeremy, thank you very much. And same goes to you. So I just really appreciate that. But I think everyone else out there can appreciate it a little bit more, because without guests like you, we wouldn't have this awesome podcast anyways, right?
Well, I'm super happy to be here. I'm really honored.
Thank you, my friend. The honor is mine. And everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, you've got to love yourself. Try to love others if you can, but you got to love yourself first. Try to do it if you can. Remember, if you're feeling a little sad, pick up the phone. It's not that heavy. I know it can be heavy, but just try it. It does work sometimes. Don't talk into the mirror all the time. It's not the best for you, unless you're talking good stuff. But with that being said, we're out, and we will see y'all next week. Much love. Shalom.